At my daughter's wedding, her father stood up to give a speech. But the words he said made the entire hall gasp. Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I've replayed that moment in my mind 1,000 times since it happened. The clink of silverware on crystal, the expectant hush that fell over the reception hall, my ex-husband standing up, adjusting his tie, clearing his throat into the microphone, the way my daughter's face glowed with anticipation, believing her father was about to tell her how proud he was, how much he loved her, how beautiful she looked in her wedding dress. I should have known. After 23 years of marriage and 7 years of divorce, I should have known that Richard would find a way to make even this day about himself. But hope is a stubborn thing, especially when it comes to your children. I'd hoped, despite everything, that he would do the right thing just this once. I was wrong. Sophia came into this world on a rainy October morning 28 years ago, 3 weeks early, and screaming with determination. From that first moment, she was fierce. As a toddler, she refused to let anyone help her tie her shoes, insisting she could do it herself, even when it took 20 minutes and we were late for everything. As a child, she collected stray cats and argued with her teachers when she thought they were wrong. As a teenager, she fought for causes she believed in, painting protest signs in our garage and organizing fundraisers for local shelters. She was everything I could have hoped for in a daughter: smart, compassionate, stubborn, brave. She had Richard's dark hair and sharp cheekbones, but everything else was pure determination and heart. I remember her first day of kindergarten. She marched into that classroom without looking back, while I stood in the hallway crying into my sleeve. The teacher had to gently suggest I leave because I was disturbing the other parents. Sophia didn't need me to hold her hand. She never really did. But I held it anyway, whenever she'd let me. Her childhood was full of piano recitals, where she'd mess up and start over without apologizing, soccer games where she'd come home covered in mud and grinning, science fairs where her volcano actually worked better than anyone else's. She read constantly, devouring books faster than I could buy them. She asked impossible questions about death and space, and why people were cruel to each other. Richard was around for most of it, physically at least. He came to some of the recitals, a few of the games. He paid for things. He existed in the house, in our lives, but always at a distance. He worked long hours at his law firm, or said he did. On weekends, he played golf with clients. He traveled for business. When he was home, he was in his study with the door closed. I told myself it was normal. Men of his generation weren't as involved with their children. He was providing for us. He showed love through stability and financial security. I was lying to myself, of course. But you do that when you're trying to hold a family together. You tell yourself stories that make the loneliness bearable. Sophia noticed, though. Children always notice. When she was 10, she asked me why Daddy never wanted to play with her. I made excuses about his important job. When she was 13, she stopped asking him to come to her events. When she was 16, she barely spoke to him at all. The divorce happened when she was 21, halfway through college. She wasn't surprised. Nobody was surprised. Richard had been having an affair with his paralegal for 3 years. When I found out, I felt almost relieved. At least now, I didn't have to pretend anymore. Sophia took it hard, despite acting like she didn't. She threw herself into her studies, graduated summa cum laude, got accepted into a prestigious graduate program. She built a life that looked perfect from the outside. But I knew her. I saw the way she flinched when men said they loved her. I saw how she kept everyone at arm's length, convinced that people leave, that love doesn't last, that trusting someone means giving them the power to destroy you. Then she met James. He was different from anyone she'd dated before. Steady, patient, kind in a way that seemed effortless rather than performed. He was a high school English teacher, which meant he was definitely not after her money since she worked in nonprofit administration and barely had any. He made her laugh. He listened when she talked. He showed up. The first time she brought him home for dinner, I watched him help her with the dishes without being asked. Watched the way he touched her lower back when he passed behind her. Watched her lean into him unconsciously. I saw her walls coming down. Saw her learning to trust again. When he proposed, she called me, crying. Happy tears, real ones. She was getting married. She was going to build a family with someone who actually wanted to be there. I was so happy for her, I could barely breathe. We spent a year planning the wedding. Every weekend for months, we looked at venues and tasted cakes and debated color schemes. She tried on 43 dresses before finding the one. It was ivory lace with a long train, elegant and timeless. When she stepped out of the dressing room wearing it, she looked like everything beautiful in the world concentrated into one person. We cried together in that boutique, holding hands, and she said the words I'd been waiting to hear my whole life. Thank you for never giving up on me, Mom. Thank you for showing me what love is supposed to look like. The wedding was set for June, outdoors at a beautiful estate with gardens and a view of the lake. We hired a photographer, a caterer, a band. We made hotel arrangements for out-of-town guests. We created seating charts and addressed 200 invitations by hand. And yes, we invited Richard. Sophia asked me first if it would be okay. She barely had a relationship with her father anymore. They talked maybe 3 times a year, awkward phone calls on holidays where neither of them knew what to say. He'd moved to another state with his new wife, built a new life, started fresh as if his first family had been a rough draft he was revising. But he was still her father, and she wanted him there. Or maybe she wanted to want him there. Maybe she needed to give him one more chance to be the father she'd always hoped he could be. I told her to invite him. I told her I'd be fine. I told her this day was about her and James, not about old wounds and ancient history. I meant it, too. I'd moved on. I had a good life. I'd gone back to school, got my master's degree, started a small business. I'd dated, though nothing serious. I had friends and hobbies, and a life that belonged entirely to me. Richard couldn't hurt me anymore. Or so I thought. He RSVP'd yes. He'd bring his new wife, Melissa. They'd stay at a hotel in town. He wanted to walk Sophia down the aisle if she'd let him. She said yes. She wanted both of us there, she said. Her father to walk her down the aisle, me to help her get ready in the bridal suite. She wanted to weave together the broken pieces of her family for one perfect day. I supported her decision even though it made my stomach hurt. This was what she needed. This was her closure, her chance to have the father-daughter moment she'd always been denied. Who was I to take that from her? The month before the wedding, Richard called Sophia and asked to meet for coffee, just the two of them. He wanted to reconnect, he said, to repair their relationship, to be a better father going forward. She was cautiously hopeful. She met him 3 times over the next few weeks. She didn't tell me much about those conversations, but I could see she was trying. She was giving him another chance because that's who she was. She believed in second chances. She believed people could change. I hoped she was right. I hoped Richard had finally grown up, finally realized what he'd thrown away, finally become capable of putting someone else first. The warning signs were there, of course. They always are. 2 weeks before the wedding, Richard called me. It was late, past 10, and I almost didn't answer. But he said it was important. He needed to talk to me about the wedding. When I answered, his voice was strange, tight, almost gleeful in a way that made my skin crawl. I just wanted to give you a heads up, he said. I'm planning to say some things in my father of the bride speech, some truths that need to be said. I thought you should know. What truths? I asked, already dreading the answer. You'll see, he said. It's time everyone knew the real story. Richard, don't. Whatever you're planning, don't do this to her. Not on her wedding day. She deserves to know the truth. Everyone deserves to know the truth. He hung up before I could respond. I couldn't sleep that night. I called him back a dozen times, but he didn't answer. I thought about calling Sophia, warning her, but warning her about what? I didn't know what he was planning. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he was just being dramatic. Maybe I was overreacting. I convinced myself it would be fine. Richard loved Sophia in his own limited way. He wouldn't actually ruin her wedding. He might be selfish and absent and emotionally stunted, but he wasn't cruel. I was wrong about that too. The wedding day arrived perfect and clear. June sunshine, temperatures in the mid-70s, a light breeze carrying the scent of roses from the garden. The kind of day that feels like a blessing, like the universe approving of the union about to take place. I arrived at the venue at 8 in the morning to oversee the final setup. The florist was arranging centerpieces. The caterers were setting up their stations. The band was doing sound checks. Everything was coming together exactly as we'd planned. At 10, I went to the bridal suite where Sophia was getting ready with her bridesmaids. She was sitting in front of the mirror in her robe, having her makeup done, and she looked radiant. Nervous but happy. Ready. She caught my eye in the mirror and smiled. "This is really happening, Mom." "It really is, sweetheart. I'm getting married." "You're getting married." She turned in her chair and grabbed my hand. "I couldn't have done any of this without you. You know that, right? You've been everything. My rock, my constant, my example of what strength looks like. I hope I can be half the mother you've been to me." I was already crying, and we hadn't even started getting her into the dress yet. The next few hours passed in a beautiful blur. We helped her into her dress, fastened 100 tiny buttons, arranged her veil. The photographer captured every moment. The bridesmaids toasted with champagne. We laughed and cried and fixed makeup that got smudged by tears. At 3:30, the ceremony began. I walked down the aisle alone, sat in the front row, watched Richard walk our daughter toward her future, his face solemn and proud. Watched James's eyes fill with tears when he saw her. Watched them exchange vows they'd written themselves, promising forever to each other, promising to show up, to stay, to love through the hard parts. It was perfect. It was everything she deserved. The ceremony ended, and we moved to the reception. The ballroom was transformed with thousands of flowers and twinkling lights. The tables were set with ivory linens and gold-rimmed china. Everything was elegant, tasteful, exactly what Sophia had envisioned. We ate dinner. We toasted the couple. The best man gave a funny speech about how James had talked about Sophia for 6 months before finally getting the courage to ask her out. The maid of honor shared stories about Sophia's fierce loyalty and generous heart. Then it was time for the father of the bride speech. I felt my stomach drop as Richard stood up. I'd been dreading this moment since his phone call 2 weeks ago, but I'd also been hoping I'd misunderstood. Maybe he'd just been drunk. Maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe he'd decided to do the right thing. He tapped his fork against his glass. The room fell silent. 200 people turned their attention to him. Sophia was looking at him with such hope in her eyes, such desperate, childish hope that maybe this time, finally, her father would say the words she'd been waiting her whole life to hear. Richard cleared his throat, smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Then he began to speak. "Thank you all for being here today to celebrate this joyous occasion. As the father of the bride, I'm supposed to stand up here and talk about what a beautiful, accomplished, wonderful daughter I have. I'm supposed to tell embarrassing childhood stories and get a little teary and welcome James into our family." He paused. The room waited. But I've never been very good at doing what I'm supposed to do. And I think it's time everyone here knew the truth about this family, about Sophia, about the lie that's been maintained for 28 years. My blood turned to ice. You see, I'm not actually Sophia's biological father. The room gasped, literally gasped, a collective intake of breath from 200 people simultaneously. I saw Sophia's face drain of color. I saw James reach for her hand. I saw the bridesmaids exchange shocked looks. Richard kept talking. I found out when she was 6 months old. Her mother, my dear ex-wife Linda, had an affair with a colleague during a business trip. She came home pregnant, Let me believe the baby was mine. Let me love that child for 6 months before I accidentally discovered some emails on her computer. Explicit emails, planning emails, love letters to another man. None of this was true. Not a single word. I'd never had an affair. I'd never been on a business trip without him in the early years of our marriage. Sophia was his daughter. We'd done a paternity test when she was born, because Richard had insisted on it for some insurance paperwork. He'd seen the results himself. He was lying. Standing in front of 200 people on his daughter's wedding day, telling a complete fabrication designed to destroy her, but he wasn't finished. I confronted Linda. She admitted it. She begged me not to leave, promised it would never happen again, swore that she'd never see the man again. And like a fool, I stayed. I raised another man's child as my own. I gave her my name, my time, my resources. I tried to love her like she was mine. Sophia was standing now, shaking her head, her face streaked with tears. "Dad, that's not true. That can't be true." Richard looked at her with something like pity. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know this is hard to hear. But you deserve to know the truth before you started your own family. Before you built your marriage on the same foundation of lies that your mother built ours on." I was on my feet, moving toward the microphone, but Richard held up his hand. "I have proof. DNA test from when you were born. Hospital records. I've had them all these years. I can show anyone who wants to see them." He was looking at me now, his eyes cold with triumph. "Your mother has been lying to both of us your entire life. She's let you grow up thinking I was your father, let you hate me for being distant, for not loving you enough. But how could I love you the same way I'd love my own child? Every time I looked at you, I saw her betrayal. I saw the man she chose over me. I saw the lie that destroyed my life." The room was in chaos now. Guests were whispering, some standing, everyone staring. James had his arm around Sophia, who looked like she might collapse. Her bridesmaids were crying. James's parents looked horrified. I reached the front of the room and grabbed the microphone from Richard. "That's enough. Not another word." He smiled at me. That same cold smile. "Truth hurts, doesn't it, Linda?" I turned to face the room. To face my daughter. None of what he just said is true, not one word. Sophia is Richard's biological daughter. We have the paternity test to prove it. He's known since the day she was born that she's his. He's lying. I don't know why. But he's lying. Richard laughed. Actually laughed. "Of course you deny it. You've been denying it for 28 years. I looked at Sophia. My beautiful daughter, her perfect day destroyed, standing there in her wedding dress, looking shattered and confused and betrayed. "Sweetheart, I swear to you, I have never been unfaithful to your father. Not once in 23 years of marriage. You are his daughter. You have always been his daughter. I have the original paternity test in my safe deposit box. We can get it right now if you want. We can prove this is a lie." Richard was still talking, but I couldn't hear him over the roaring in my ears. I couldn't believe this was happening. I couldn't believe he would do this to her, to us, on this day of all days. James was the one who finally took control. He stood up, his face calm, but his voice carrying steel underneath. "I think we need to pause for a moment. This is a lot to process, and we're doing it in front of 200 people. Sophia, what do you want to do?" She looked at him. At me. At her father. Her face was pale, but her jaw was set. That old determination coming through despite the shock. "I want to see the test," she said quietly. "Both tests. His and Mom's. Right now." Richard pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket, handed it to her with a flourish. I came prepared. She opened it, pulled out a document, read it. Her hands were shaking so badly the paper rattled. Then she looked up at her father, with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure contempt. "This is fake," she said. "This has been photoshopped. Badly. The dates don't even match. I wasn't born in March. I was born in October. And this isn't even the hospital I was born at." Richard's confidence faltered for just a second. "That's just the copy. The original is at home. You're lying, Sophia said, her voice getting stronger. You've always been a liar, but I never thought you'd stoop this low. You're standing here on my wedding day, trying to destroy my relationship with my mother, trying to make me doubt my own identity. All because what? Because you're bitter about the divorce? Because you can't stand seeing us happy? I was trying to tell you the truth, Richard said, but he sounded less certain now. You were trying to hurt us, I said, stepping closer to him. That's all you've ever tried to do. You couldn't stand that Sophia loves me. You couldn't stand that she built a relationship with me while shutting you out. So you decided to punish us both by making up this sick lie. It's not a lie, he insisted, but everyone could hear the weakness in his voice now. James spoke up again. I think you should leave, he said to Richard. This is our wedding. You're not welcome here anymore. Richard looked around the room, seeing the faces of 200 guests who just witnessed him try to destroy his daughter's wedding with lies. He tried to muster some dignity. You'll regret this, all of you. Then he turned and walked out. Melissa scurried after him, not meeting anyone's eyes. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Sophia started to laugh. Not happy laughter. Hysterical, almost manic laughter that scared me. Mom, she said when she could breathe again. Mom, what just happened? I pulled her into my arms, wedding dress and veil and all. Your father just showed everyone who he really is. That's what happened. She clung to me, shaking. Is it true? Any of it? None of it, baby. Not a single word. You are Richard's biological daughter. I have never cheated on anyone in my life. He made it all up because he wanted to hurt us. That's all this was. James wrapped his arms around both of us. We're going to get through this. We're going to continue this wedding and have the most beautiful reception ever, and we're not going to let him take this day from us. But the damage was done. The guests were uncomfortable. The joy had been sucked out of the room. Sophia was crying, and her makeup was ruined. The photographers had captured the whole disaster. I looked around at all those faces staring at us. Family members, friends, James's colleagues. All of them had just witnessed our family's ugliest moment. All of them were probably questioning whether Richard's story might be true. Gossip would spread. People would speculate. Sophia would have to answer questions about this for years. Richard had gotten exactly what he wanted. I felt fury rising in me, pure and hot. He'd done this. He'd deliberately destroyed the happiest day of our daughter's life because he was petty and small and couldn't stand seeing her happy without him. But I also felt something else. Determination. He wasn't going to win. I wasn't going to let him take this day from her. I took the microphone again. Everyone, I know what you just witnessed was shocking and uncomfortable. I know you're probably confused and don't know what to believe. So let me be absolutely clear. Everything Richard just said was a lie. A calculated, cruel lie designed to hurt his daughter on the happiest day of her life. I have never been unfaithful. Sophia is Richard's biological daughter. We have proof and will gladly share it with anyone who needs to see it. I paused, looking around the room. But more importantly, it doesn't matter. Blood doesn't make you a parent. Showing up makes you a parent. Love makes you a parent. Sacrifice makes you a parent. Richard has never been a father to Sophia in any way that matters. He was barely present in her childhood. He abandoned her when she needed him most. And now he's tried to poison her wedding day because he couldn't stand watching her be loved by people who actually care about her. I looked at Sophia and James. This is your day. This is your celebration. Don't let him steal one more second of joy from you. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to dance and laugh and celebrate your love. So that's what we're going to do. I raised my glass. To Sophia and James, may your marriage be everything your parents' marriages weren't. May you show up for each other every single day. May you build a life based on truth and trust and real, lasting love. The room was silent for a moment. Then James's father stood up and raised his glass. To Sophia and James. One by one, the guests joined in. First the wedding party, then the family members, then everyone else. The toast echoed through the room. To Sophia and James. The band started playing again. The servers began bringing out dessert. Slowly, awkwardly, the reception resumed. Sophia excused herself to fix her makeup. I went with her to the bridal suite. Once we were alone, she completely broke down. How could he do that to me? How could he stand up in front of everyone and lie like that? On my wedding day? Because he's a narcissist who can't stand not being the center of attention. Because he's spent his entire life making everything about himself. Because he's incapable of loving anyone more than he loves his own ego. I just wanted him to be proud of me. Just once. Was that too much to ask? Oh, sweetheart. I held her while she cried, careful not to mess up her dress more than it already was. I spent my whole childhood trying to get him to love me. And he just destroyed my wedding because, what? Because he was jealous? Because he wanted revenge on you for the divorce? I don't know why he did it. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're married to a man who loves you. What matters is that you have people who show up for you, who celebrate you, who would never hurt you like this. Your father doesn't deserve another second of your tears. She pulled back and looked at me. Do you really have the paternity test? I do. It's in my safe deposit box, just like I said. We can get it tomorrow if you want. I want everyone to see it. I want to post it on social media. I want everyone who was at that wedding to know he was lying. We can do that. But right now, I need you to go back out there and dance with your husband. I need you to cut your cake and throw your bouquet and enjoy the rest of your reception. Don't let your father steal this from you. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders. That old determination coming through. You're right. He doesn't get to win, not today. We fixed her makeup, touched up her hair, made her look beautiful again, though the sadness in her eyes was harder to erase. When we came back to the reception, James was waiting. He took one look at his wife and pulled her onto the dance floor. The band played their first dance song again. This time, Sophia let herself melt into him. Let herself be held. Let herself feel loved. I watched them dance and felt my heart breaking and healing at the same time. Richard had tried to destroy this. He'd tried to poison her view of love, of family, of herself. But she was stronger than his cruelty. We both were. The rest of the reception passed in a strange blur. People danced. People ate cake. People carefully avoided mentioning what had happened, though I could see it in their eyes. The questions, the discomfort, the pity. James's parents pulled me aside at one point. We're so sorry that happened. We know it wasn't true. Anyone who knows you and Sophia can see how much you love each other, how strong your bond is. Thank you. That means more than you know. Richard is no longer welcome in our family. James has already made that clear. Whatever relationship Sophia chooses to have with her father going forward is up to her. But Richard will not be at any future family gatherings. Not birthdays, not holidays, not when they have children. He made his choice today. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. You're good people. I'm so glad Sophia found you, found all of you. The evening wound down. Sophia and James left in a shower of sparklers and well-wishes, heading to a hotel before their honeymoon flight in the morning. I stayed to help clean up, to pack away decorations, to tip vendors. When everything was done, and I was finally alone in my car, I let myself fall apart. I cried until my eyes were swollen and my throat was raw. I cried for my daughter's shattered day. I cried for the relationship she'd never have with her father. I cried for the little girl who'd tried so hard to earn his love and approval. And I cried because part of me still couldn't believe he'd done it. Part of me had been hoping, even after everything, that he'd surprise us, that he'd be better than we thought he was. I drove home in the dark and fell into bed still wearing my dress. I couldn't think about tomorrow yet. Couldn't think about the fallout, the gossip, the explanations we'd have to give to people who weren't there. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. Mom, thank you for tonight. Thank you for defending me, for believing in me, for showing me what strength looks like. I love you more than anything, I texted back. I love you too, sweetheart. Sleep well. Tomorrow will be better. I hoped I was telling the truth. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of messages. Friends who'd been at the wedding, checking on me. Relatives demanding to know the real story. A few cruel messages from people who'd always been Team Richard, accusing me of poisoning Sophia against her father. I ignored all of them except one. My sister, who'd flown in from California for the wedding. "I'm coming over, don't argue. I'm bringing coffee and breakfast, and we're going to talk about what happens next." She arrived an hour later with bagels and lattes and a grim expression. That was the most fucked up thing I've ever seen at a wedding. And I once went to a wedding where the bride punched the groom's ex in the face. Despite everything, I laughed. Richard really outdid himself this time. We need to control the narrative. You need to post that paternity test. You need to publicly show that he was lying. Otherwise, people are going to keep speculating. She was right. I went to the bank, got the document from my safe deposit box, scanned it, posted it on social media with a brief explanation. For anyone wondering, here is the paternity test done when Sophia was born, proving conclusively that Richard is her biological father. Everything he said at the wedding was a malicious lie designed to hurt his daughter on the happiest day of her life. I have never been unfaithful. Sophia is his child. This is the last time I will address this publicly. The post went viral, shared hundreds of times, comments expressing shock and outrage at Richard's behavior. A few people tried to claim the test was fake, but they were drowned out by everyone else. Richard posted his own response, doubling down on his lies, claiming my test was the fake one. But no one believed him. He looked increasingly desperate, increasingly unhinged. His new wife finally made him delete his social media accounts. Sophia called me from the airport before their honeymoon flight. "I saw the test. Thank you for posting it. I'm blocking Dad on everything. I'm done. I'm never speaking to him again. You don't have to decide that right now. You're emotional and hurt. Give yourself time." "No, Mom, I'm not emotional. I'm clear." He stood up at my wedding and tried to destroy me in front of everyone I love. He lied about you, about me, about our entire family. There's no coming back from that. I'm done. I understood. Part of me was relieved she was finally free of him, but part of me mourned for her, for the father-daughter relationship she'd never have. "Okay, sweetheart, whatever you need. I need you to know that you're my family. You're my real parent. You're the one who showed up, who loved me, who sacrificed for me. Blood doesn't make a family. Love does. And you've loved me every single day of my life." I was crying again. "You're my whole world, Sophia. You always have been." After we hung up, I sat in my empty house and thought about everything that had happened. The wedding that was supposed to be perfect. The speech that destroyed everything. The lies that would follow us for years. But I also thought about Sophia dancing with James, about her standing up to her father, about her choosing to continue the reception, to not let him steal her joy completely, about her text thanking me, loving me, claiming me as her real parent. Richard had tried to break us, but all he'd done was make us stronger. 3 weeks later, I got a letter from Richard. A real letter. Handwritten, sent to my house. "Linda, I need you to understand why I did what I did. You took everything from me in the divorce. You turned Sophia against me. You built a life without me and acted like I didn't matter. I needed you both to feel even a fraction of the pain I've felt these past 7 years. I didn't read the rest. I threw it away." 2 months after that, Sophia told me she was pregnant. She and James were having a baby. They wanted me to be involved, to be the kind of grandparent I'd been as a mother, present, loving, showing up. She didn't tell Richard. She said she never would. As far as she was concerned, he'd given up his right to be part of her life when he tried to destroy her wedding. I understood. I supported her decision. But late at night sometimes, I felt a strange sadness for him. Not pity, exactly. Just sadness that he'd destroyed everything that might have given his life meaning. His daughter, his grandchildren, his connection to the family he'd built. He'd done it to himself. Every choice, every absence, every moment of neglect, culminating in that final act of cruelty. Some people never learn that love requires showing up. They think biology is enough. They think providing money is enough. They think they can be absent for years and then demand love and respect without earning it. Richard never learned that lesson. And now he was alone with his bitterness and his lies and his new wife who'd seen him at his worst. As for us, we moved forward. We rebuilt. We created new memories that weren't tainted by his presence. When Sophia's daughter was born, I was in the delivery room holding her hand. When they brought the baby home, I was there to help. When they had hard nights and exhausted days, I showed up with food and help and love. I was the kind of grandparent my mother had been to me, the kind Richard never could be. And you know what? We were happier without him. The hole he left was smaller than I'd expected. We filled it with people who actually cared, who actually showed up, who actually loved us without conditions or lies or cruelty. Sometimes I wonder if he regrets it. If he lies awake at night thinking about his granddaughter he'll never meet. If he wishes he could take back those words he said into that microphone. But mostly, I don't think about him at all. I think about Sophia, about her strength, about the family she's building with James, about my granddaughter who'll grow up knowing what real love looks like. I think about the wedding, yes, but not the speech that destroyed it. I think about the part that came after, when Sophia stood up and chose to keep dancing, when she chose joy over bitterness, when she chose us. That's the part that matters. That's the part I'll remember when everything else fades away. Richard wanted to destroy us with his words, but all he did was prove that we'd already survived worse, that we were stronger than his hatred, that family isn't about blood or DNA tests or speeches at weddings. It's about showing up. Every day, through the hard parts, through the moments when it would be easier to walk away. It's about love that doesn't need a microphone to prove it's real. And we have that. We've always had that. Richard was never part of that equation. He just finally made it obvious to everyone else. So when people ask me about that wedding, about that speech, about what happened, I tell them the truth. My daughter got married to a wonderful man. She looked beautiful. We danced and celebrated and loved each other. And her father showed everyone who he really was. Everything else is just noise. The love is what matters. The love is all that ever mattered.